Hi, everyone. How are you? Those of you that are just coming in, welcome, welcome. If you can see that. Let me know if you can hear me and see this really well. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Just going to give everybody some time to get in here. I know that I never go on this late, but there are people that watch me around the world, and so this will maybe give them a chance to see me since we're on different time zones, and maybe they can get some questions answered. Hello, welcome everyone. Those of you that are showing up, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Let me know if you can hear me well. That would help me out. Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate it. And thanks for joining me so late. I appreciate each one of you. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? I'm so glad. I know this is really late, but it is going to give people that don't usually get to see me in different time zones, it'll give them a chance to kind of get to do a live with me. A lot of times people are sleeping when we're awake. So I'm doing really, really good. It's really late. We finally got everybody down, the baby. How is everyone doing in here? We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on. We are now with Mercury direct, but we've got some things to talk about because, and I wanted to answer everybody's questions as well, but if you've been, yeah, thank you. If you've been following me, you know that Pluto's a big, big thing that's going on. And we've got from now until May 2nd, before we start retrograding all of these planets till the end of the year. So thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. And this is kind of be an open forum. So if you guys have questions, because I know a lot of you don't get to see me live, so um, if you have a question, I can try to answer it for you. I may have to like go back and forth and get another chart, but you know, that's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I'm doing this late at night. It's late at night for me, but it may be like early morning for some people. Could be during the day for others. Thank you so much for coming in, though. I appreciate it. So we're just going to kind of give everybody a chance to get in here. Let me undo this. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. So how's everyone doing? If you've never seen me before, welcome, welcome. My name is Cindi. I'm at Simply Cindi. I am I hate to label myself because I have so many some modalities, but medium is who I am, part of who I am. I do astrology. I do tarot. I haven't done tarot in a while because astrology has taken a big part in mediumship and hypnosis. So we're going to kind of stick to astrology since that's sort of the thing. But, you know, if I get a message here and there, I can let you guys know. Because sometimes you never know. It will happen. You know how the algorithm is. We're just going to give everybody a chance to get in here. They'll start notifying people in about 10 minutes. And so I really want to give people that are looking for me, that have not gotten to see me, I really want them to be able to catch me live. You are welcome. She said, thanks, Cindy, for coming on so late. You are welcome. That's the great thing about live and YouTube. Like, you can get on anytime. And though I usually get on during the day or in the evening, I thought, oh, well, it's almost the weekend, and for those of you that don't know, I had to move up to Oregon, so I'm staying with my daughter and son-in-law in a very, very small place until we find something. So and I have a grandbaby, so we kind of have to wait till, I wanted to wait till he went to sleep. And of course, he went to sleep late. He's usually in bed by 10, but he didn't. So that's just kind of a side note. I just wanted to let you guys know that I wanted to let you guys know that if you have any questions or you haven't gotten to see me live, this is sort of the time. If you ask any questions, I don't have my tarot cards out, so it would have to just kind of be astrology. But if you've been watching my videos, I've been doing the Pluto series. I had to stop the Pluto series for a minute, so I haven't done all the houses. But that's the important thing that's coming up, is this Pluto is going retrograde. I have, but it's been a while. Yeah. And I know because I hadn't done YouTube in so long, before January, that the algorithm isn't really pushing my stuff out a lot. I mean, it's getting better, but whoever's supposed to see will see, right? And it'll get to that place when the time comes, right? But for now, I'm kind of glad that you guys are in here. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for coming in. And if you guys haven't seen my Pluto series, you might want to go back and watch that, because that's an important thing about what's going on, because it's moved into Aquarius. I know, that's what we were talking about the other day. You miss Periscope days. I miss the Periscope days too. Although here, like, you can tap on the screen to, like, give me hearts and do all that. But we used to, that was like the Wild West, wasn't it? We got to, like, talk forever. We got to play music. It was so much fun just hanging out with everybody. Yeah. And then Spirit would come through and it'd give messages and we'd tell stories. I so wish we could do that again, but there's so many restrictions on each of the platforms. They don't really let you do it. I think the only one that's kind of light, no, I don't even think, TikTok is what I was kind of thinking of, but even they've gotten, it's just not Periscope anymore. I know, I miss that place. It really was. Are you on TikTok? No, because I'm not on TikTok. I'm more of a viewer on TikTok. I support a lot of people, but I don't really get on TikTok other than for entertainment, because I wanted to focus on coming back to social media. I wanted to focus on YouTube first, and then maybe in the future, I'll get on TikTok. A lot of people have been wanting me to get on TikTok, but yeah, it's very restrictive. We're gonna have to join the dark web, right? So I do want to tell you guys this. As far as TikTok being banned, it's not gonna be banned. I mean, they're gonna try, but we're going into Aquarius energy. It's not gonna be banned. So it's going to look like it because, and that has to do with this Pluto retrograde going back into Capricorn at that 29-degree. But if it's banned, it would surprise me. It's going to surprise me if it's banned. I don't think it's going to be banned. I mean, they're going to try whatever they're going to do, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't feel it. There's a lot of things. We're going to have a lot. Right now, it's a lot about upheaval. And I told you guys that with this going on here. I think a couple of lives ago, we talked about that Uranus, Jupiter conjunct and some upheaval. And the last time that had happened in Taurus was 1941, right? And so if you look back in history, in 1941, that was kind of the, the upheaval that happened. I won't say all the words because, you know how the algorithm is. But anyway, there's upheaval, and there's upheaval that's going to happen. If you just look at the charts and look at the history, you can see it in there. But as far as like the impressions I'm getting, yeah, I don't think TikTok's going to be banned. And we'll see. We'll see, because things can change. If that changes, I'll let you guys know. But right now, the thing that I'm getting is that it's not going to get banned. It's not. There's going to be some upheaval, though. Remember, we're going through this North Node, right? Now that Mercury is direct, and it was at the North Node yesterday when it went direct. So that has to do with you, everyone, actually coming into understanding and processing of the things that had happened in that. If you watch my last live, I talked about that. Oh gosh, it keeps moving. I talked about that full moon, and how it was bringing up your insecurities, how it was bringing, and it was deep insecurities, maybe stuff that you didn't know, didn't realize, thought you were over. It wasn't even in your consciousness, like in your focus at all. So this was stuff that would just come up. Because that's what Scorpio does. Scorpio goes deep, and Scorpio was illuminating the sun at the time. So I talked about how Taurus, whatever was going on, wherever house Taurus was, you may want to go back and look at that. But you should have come to some understanding with, we're still kind of coming to the understanding. Things aren't fixed yet because Mercury just went direct. But now is the time. So we've got like 5 days, 7 days, until May 2nd. So we've got May 2nd before this turns retrograde. So Pluto's going to turn retrograde. Right? Now, what's been going on over the last 6 months, and then in the last 16 years, there's been some bigger issues in the world that is going on that you're going to see. It's going to come back to light because this is the time. Pluto is going back into Capricorn, and whatever it's going to take down, because Capricorn's about structures, it's about systems, right? And so whatever that is, that's what's going to be focused on. So if you notice now that it's about to turn retrograde, you can kind of see, if you think of Pluto as a personality, right? You can kind of see Pluto looking back at Capricorn. And that's the way I kind of see them. They're kind of characters for me. Pluto's turning back to Capricorn and said, we're not finished and I'm coming back, right? And so we had been focused on AI, future thinking, future stuff going on. But now it's already looking back at Capricorn, which is about the structures. It's about the systems. It's about, what we had to progress through the last 16 years, right? And so it's already looking back, and you can kind of see it looking back. We're already starting to focus on what are we going to do about the government? What are we going to do about the school system? What are we going to do about the healthcare system? What are we going to do about, you can see us, our energy's already looking back because we're about to go back, and it's going to retrograde to the 29th degree. That is a very powerful degree in any sign. Okay, so that degree in any sign. So on a global level, that's what's going to be happening. On a personal level, wherever Capricorn is in your chart, in your natal chart, will tell you um, it's going to be like the final, because Pluto's about trauma, right? And overcoming the trauma and getting through the trauma and transmuting the trauma. And some of you, a lot of you, this trauma has to do with past lives. This trauma has to do with your DNA. This trauma has to do with, why am I always anxious? I wasn't an anxious person. Why am I an anxious person? Nothing ever happened to me, but I'm so anxious. But then I see my whole family anxious, right? So you kind of have that. I mean, that's just a scenario. But, some people, um, wherever this is for you on the 29th degree, that's going to come around. So if you haven't gotten through it, and that's why I was doing the Pluto series, but I got disrupted personally because my chart is ruled by Uranus, right? So my life switches on a dime, right? It can switch on a dime. And so I ended up having to be uprooted, and I wouldn't say uprooted because I had intention of coming this way anyway. It just happened a little sooner than I thought it was going to happen, right? So just like everybody else, this disruptive Uranus Jupiter, it happened to me personally. So I couldn't finish the Pluto series. I'm going to finish the Pluto series, but right now I'm in a place where it's really hard to find a place to like rent or own. It's a smaller town in Oregon, so yeah, I'm going through that. So anyway, this Pluto, you're going to see us looking back there. You're going to see us refocusing on that. And this is the last time that Pluto is going to be when it retrogrades, it goes back into Capricorn. That's the last time it's going to be in Capricorn, I think, for 251 years. So this is it. Whatever structures are going to be taken down are going to be taken down. I have been talking about this for the last 6 or 8 months, 6 months, I think. Yeah, really 4 and 5 months. But the last 6 months, I've been talking about how important this Pluto is because the structures, this is the time from now until October. Let me check real quick. Yeah, from now. Sorry, from now until October 2nd, that's what we're going to be working on. Those structures are going to fall. Whether it's government, whether it's the school systems, whether it's the healthcare systems. I've said this from the beginning. I've said this probably for a couple years now. Maybe even 4 years. I've said this when I've come on YouTube and talked about Pluto. Because, Pluto's very prominent in my chart, so it's always a focus for me. But I think that's part of my work is helping people through this Pluto. But anyway, I've said this for about 4 years. Structures will come down. Even ones that we didn't think could will come down if they do not change. So either you change, you adapt as we progress forward, as humanity progresses forward, as society progresses forward, because forward we're in Aquarius, right? So these structures have to change. So either it's going to change or it's going to come down. And I have been talking about the last time that Pluto is going to retrograde into Capricorn. I've been saying this for the past 6 or 8 months. Once this happens, this is when the real work happens, right? With Pluto. And so now's that time that I have been talking about for the last couple years. Now is that time that things are going to happen. It is going to be restructured or it is going to come down. Even if it doesn't look like it could. I mean, we know that the government and the school system and the healthcare system, those are just things I'm thinking of. But there's lots of systems that needed to be brought down or changed, right? Because we are no longer going to be in Capricorn energy. We're in Aquarius energy now, and you can see it. You can see people coming together. You can see people actually looking at the group society instead of just themselves, right? And there is nothing wrong with looking at yourself first, right? But because self-preservation is key, right? But this is Aquarius energy, and if y'all know, I'm an Aquarius ascending, Aquarius rising, so it's about humanity and our self-preservation, right? So there's a way to do it, and Aquarius are really good at this. There's a way to do it where we can keep our anonymity, keep our independence, and work in groups. That's what Aquarius is really good at. And that's what we're going to be learning over the next 20 years. But we have to take some of these structures down. Let me say that again. We're not taking anything down. These structures are going to fall. Okay. We just have to be prepared and ready. Does all that make sense to everybody? I'm not I'm not about like, oh, let's, yeah, I'm not about the warmongering and all that stuff. But I do want to let everybody know what is going on and what you need to be prepared for. I have said this for a while with my channeling. Um, 2024 is about the change, and then 2025, we just got to get through 2025 and 2026. And I know things are hard for everybody right now. I know they are. They're not easy for a lot of people, but we can do it together. You can do it independently, but this is what our growth is that we don't have to. Does that make sense to everybody? So, right now, this was what this Mercury was about, going through this North Node, right? North Node is your destiny, right? And that's what we were all going through. Now we've got Mars. Let me undo that. Let me take, because I'll tend to like start. I love this little pen, so I'll tend to like start doing stuff with this pen. Um, does everybody understand what I've said so far? Does anybody have any questions? Hi, Dot. How are you? So we have a lot of things going on here. We've had a lot of things going on here, and this is not over yet, right? The next thing, too, is that Mars and Neptune. Remember what I'd said? Everybody's going to think their idea is the one. That's Neptune and that's Mars. That ego is behind their idea. It's your idea, and everybody's going to think that their idea is the idea, right? Yeah, we're well. Hope you're well too, Dot. Thanks for joining. I know it's late, but that's kind of why I'm doing it late too, is because people are getting to see me that don't ever get to see me. So we have this conjunction here, and you guys know conjunction just means they're talking to each other, they're close to each other, right? So I always think of, for those of you that have never seen me, I see the planets as characters for me because I'm a medium. 9 a.m. So great. Oh, see, I knew. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Dot. There's some people that are in the UK. There's some people that are in like all over. So, and I know that you guys have seen me for a long, 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 long time. You're part of the group. So, I'm kind of glad I'm doing it late. But um, what I was saying before, you're welcome, is that I'd said that this Neptune and Mars going in there, everybody's going to think their idea is the idea, and they're going to want to fight for it because that's Mars, right? And we have Saturn here, and I haven't gotten to do the video for Saturn in Pisces, but Saturn in Pisces is really having us at our core for the next 18 months, actually. So it's been in Pisces for a year. And so probably for another 18 months. This is about your belief system. This is about what do you believe in, right? What do you, so this and this together, like they're not conjunct. These two are conjunct. Let me go back to what I was saying. Sorry. I got distracted with Dot's um, commentary. So I see the planets as characters, and the way that I see them is like they're talking, they're at a table, at a dinner table, and you're the host of the dinner table, right? You're, uh, it's an honor of you, that dinner table. That's the way that I see them. So when they're conjunct, you can think of them as just being right next to each other, right? And they're talking. And so they're really, when they're next to each other, they're really good at communicating, right? Now, sometimes, depending on the planet, because they're a character, they don't want to listen. They think their idea is the best or what they're saying is the best, right? And they don't want to hear. But there are planets here that will listen and they do work well together. This is one of those occasions where they don't really work well together. So, Neptune and Mars. Neptune is about the ideas, about the knowing, and Mars thinks it knows better because it's your ego, right? So Mars wants to war. Mars will fight for what it believes in. And that's kind of what's going to be going on here. And you can see that, I mean, we're having the protest and all that. Mars is about the war. Mars is going to fight for what it believes in. And Neptune thinks its ideas are the best. Its ideas are the one, right? But Saturn, all of us, whether you're in the actual protest or you're looking at the protests, what do you believe in? What do you believe in? What's your belief system? Not what you were taught to believe, not what society tells you to believe, but what do you believe in? And that is what Saturn is helping us understand with Pisces. Pisces is boundless like Neptune, but Saturn is bounds. It has boundaries, right? So these two have been working together. That's what's going on with you guys. So wherever Pisces is falling for you in your house, whether that's first, second, third, all the way to the 12th house, um, that's kind of what you're going through with this Saturn. Now, does all that make sense? But this is why we're seeing this upheaval, like I said over here, upheaval, this Jupiter Uranus, and then this Mars Neptune. This is my idea. My idea is the best. That's the way. But it's all in, there's a plan, right? So this is all going through the North Node. So if you think about it, Chiron's been through the North Node. Mercury's been through the North Node. The Sun's been through the North Node. Venus has been through the North Node. These have been through the North Nodes. This is what we're coming to that's going to go through the North Nodes. Does that make sense? It's like the North Node is a passageway for us on our destiny of what we're going to believe and understand. Does that make sense to everybody? We still have this, Pluto is we have a lot of changes that we need to do before that North Node comes this way. Does that make sense? Right now, our focus is on what do I believe? What do I understand? What am I going to do? What am I not going to do? Is it that I believe this because that's what I was told? Is it that I believe it because this is my culture? Is it what I believe in because this is what I investigated and researched and have experienced? What do I is this what I believe in because this is what society tells me? This is what we're all coming to, this understanding. But we're human. So there's going to be upheaval, right? There's going to be this upheaval going on, right? We're going through, and remember I told you the key was Chiron. That's a wound that we have on society. Does all that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions? If it's the fourth house, would it relate to family and where we come from? Absolutely, Dot. So the fourth house has to do with your DNA and your family and where you came from, like you said. So, but here's the thing. This is like where everything's at now. But what you want to do is place your um, chart. So in your natal chart, is it in the fourth house, right? I know it looks like the fourth house here. This one's the third house, but that's just the world itself, right? You have to look at your natal chart. Okay, yeah, it's in your fourth house. So are you talking about the Neptune North Node? Or are we talking about the Jupiter Uranus? Because I was talking about two different things. The Neptune North Node. Yes. Okay. Yes. So if this is in your fourth house, right, you may be at a place, and tell me if I'm wrong or right, um, and give me some feedback, but you may be at a place where you're like, why do I believe in that? Because what I've seen is something different, and who I am is way different than what I'm seeing. Is You may have that coming up, like you may say, "Oh, I believe in da 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 da," and then had not even thought about it, and then something comes up where you're like, "Wait, but that's not really what I believe. That's what I was told to believe," and maybe it's because that's what my grandparents believed, and that's what my parents believed, and that's what um, society believes. But we're not there anymore. We're in a new world. So this may be coming up for you, right? Like you're in the UK. I had a dream about cultures mixing up through migration. That's really cool. That's a very good point that you said, Dot, because Neptune, it can come through your dreams. Your understanding, your DNA, and you guys know I worked with that in my career with DNA. So it's in your DNA that you may be trying to work this out. And sometimes we'll hear better or we understand better when our ego is in check, and our ego is in check when we sleep. Does that make sense? So it's not that you wouldn't be able to understand or hear it while you're awake, it's that it's more likely to come through and be imprinted while you're asleep. Does that make sense? And then you get clarity and you're like, oh, I get it. Does that make sense to you? And with this Mars here, it is giving that to be able to have a dream, to be able to get it in your dreams. It is that energy, that Mars energy that will, it's almost like, oh, I get it now. So like other cultures don't like other cultures mixing up. Yeah. Like how, for example, my roots in Slovakia, they don't like people coming from different cultures. But for me, I see it's positive. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what may be going on in your fourth house is you're coming to an understanding about your own belief system and how that differs from what you were taught to believe, right? But to come to some peace with it doesn't mean that you don't like your people or can't work with your people. You can't work with your DNA. That's not what that means. It means you're coming to understand how you can incorporate all of it. And for you, that may be just what going through that North Node is about. Is like I appreciate the Slovakians for believing and understanding, and maybe that's what they needed for the time. But now we're in a different place, and I'm a different person, and I've grown a lot, and I was able to travel, and I see the beauty of cultures, and I understand different. But it doesn't mean that I don't like my people. It means that I understand them and I can work with them. But I have my own belief system. Dot says, yeah, that's how I feel exactly. I'm so glad that you brought that up because other people with the fourth house going on, that may be what, you opening up and letting people see that and um, getting understanding may help other people that are dealing with this or having to go through this, right? So thank you for bringing that up. You're so welcome. She said yes. Thanks, Cindy. Yes, makes sense. So right now, whatever was going on with that full moon. So I'm going to get off onto something else. Whatever's going on with that full moon, that Mercury retrograde was helping you understand and release. And by release, I mean coming to some acceptance, understanding, knowing. Like for me, it was for everybody. It was some sort of insecurity or deep insecurity that you didn't realize. Some of you maybe have not realized that you had, or some of you, like me, I realized I had it, but I didn't realize it was coming up again, right? So whatever this was, Mercury helped us process this. And then whatever's coming through, because we had that Jupiter and Uranus come through. And that is, Jupiter is the planet of luck. Jupiter's the planet of luck, opportunity, and Uranus likes to move things, and Jupiter makes things bigger. Jupiter is very positive. Uranus is positive, but we kind of don't see it that way, right? Because Uranus likes to throw people off, right? Shock and awe. And it's funny because during that time, I was seeing a lot of people on TikTok say, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this happened. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I kept hearing that word. And I was like, yep, that's Uranus, right? So whatever was happening, whatever movement, whatever shook you, and it's still not over. Some of you it hasn't shook yet. Or some of you it hasn't shaken yet. Um, but whatever this is, Mercury is helping you process, but that's part of you going through this North Node. That's part of you getting on your destiny. Now, I've talked a lot about Pluto in my other videos because it's really, really important because Pluto will, for those of you that like to think of it as a path, right? Your destiny, your path. It's going to put you on your path, period. The end. It is not like Saturn, who I call Daddy Saturn, right? Who will reward you afterwards. Pluto is a little bit colder, is a little bit abrupt. He will take it away. He will cause the trauma so that you learn to react in a different way and transmute and let go of that energy, right? And again, this is not just in this lifetime, this is other lifetimes, your DNA. So with this upheaval that was going on, with whatever was happening or is happening in your life that's on shaky ground for some of you, right? You're going through this is part of going through this because if you see Pluto, and I was saying this, Pluto was talking to the sun and the moon, right? It's about going through this. And Pluto talking to the sun and the moon was like, this has to do with your destiny. So it's time to like get this together, right? It's time to get this. Either you're going to, what Pluto's doing is trying to, all that baggage that you're carrying from lifetimes, right? And into this life. And then you pick up more baggage in this life, right? It's trying to help you release that. It's trying to help you release generational stuff, right? And so as it's talking, you know that it means like it's the time. It's time to do this. So again, this until October, we are going to be seeing, and this is why it's important to find out where your Capricorn is, because that's what's going to be focused along with this stuff. This has put you on shaky ground, but this is about you trusting and believing in yourself, right? I had a full moon in my 11th house, and this is Denise, sorry. I had a full moon in my 11th house, and it rang so true. reevaluating my friendships, accepting lovingly where we're at in our different stages, letting go of what no longer is a fit. No drama, thankfully. That's a really, really good way, and you're an evolved soul if you're able to do it that way. Just understanding that you're at different times, you're at different stages, you're at different paths, and I talk about this in the 11th house Pluto. Your Once you spend time with yourself after having reevaluating your friendships and letting go of some people, once you spend time with yourself and understanding who you are and what you want and what you believe and where you're at and where you're headed, once you understand that, I promise, because it happened to me. I had an 11th, I just went through my 11th house Pluto, right, for the last 16 years. Your group will just come to you. You will resonate with that, right? Yeah, that is a great understanding. So, but just know that this is what's important right now. This is why all the upheaval, um, and this is what's going to be focused on. If you think about it, we kind of stopped. I mean, AI is still there, and we're implementing stuff, and you're seeing stuff from the future because we're still in Aquarius, right? But that's no that you see that we're focusing on the structures. We started focusing on the government. We started focusing on the school system. We started focusing on all the nurses and the doctors and the healthcare. We started, and with Jupiter, Uranus in Taurus, Taurus is about the herbs, the earth, right? And so you see all of that coming about, getting bigger. People are trying to understand that there isn't just one way. And I'm not going to call it healing because there's nothing wrong with us. I'm going to call it aligning with your true essence, right? When it comes to alternative, mm, how do I say this? Alternative ways. Does that make sense? My name is Holly. Capricorn is my fifth house. Okay. So in your fifth house, and I think I did a Pluto, I'm not sure if I did the Pluto in the fifth house yet. Um, but for your fifth house, Holly, it is time, or probably over the last 16 years, you had to learn to trust yourself and create what you want and understand that you can make things happen. And if you've had children, you've probably gone through phases with those children of, you probably had to recreate your whole life, actually, probably in the last 16 years. What you thought was true was not true, and then you had to like rebuild. Does that make sense, Holly? Because that's your fifth house. It has to do with your children, but it really has to do with your creativity. You know, a lot of people call it the romance house, and it is. It's a romance house, but it's about you creating the life from your viewpoint. Does that make sense? Instead of having life pass you, she says spot on. Yeah. Instead of having life pass you by, you are actually creating. And you were empowered through this whole 16 years. You've been empowered to understand just who you are and that you are capable of creating this, right? So it's, if you've done this, there's not much that's going to happen personally for you, other than if there's a little bit of tweaking that maybe you've been thinking about, you were kind of on the fence about some things, that's going to come to fruition. So that is going to be your focal point for the till October. But once, the great thing about all of us is it's going to retrograde at 29 degrees, and that is it. It's done. It's a powerful degree. 29 degrees is a powerful degree. but it makes things happen. But after this, Holly, you won't have to do this again. You'll be through it. You'll have let go of the baggage. You won't have that anymore. You'll be in a way different phase. You probably already, your life looks nothing like it used to look, probably. Does that make sense? The famous Pluto handbag. Exactly. Exactly. We need to make those. Uh, yes, and it's against what everyone else has expected of me. Homeschooling my kids, divorce, yeah. Yep. Yeah. It looks nothing. Your life looked nothing like it looked before. You went in a totally different direction, but that's great because you went in your direction. It looks like you've done all the work, and that's the great thing. Once all Pluto's trying to do is help you release that baggage. So you're done. Once it's done, it's done. I know you've done amazing, Holly, amazing. And now what comes next is all of the gifts and the blessings and the expansion. That's that Jupiter Uranus, right? The expansion of what's really going to be going on. Because Jupiter and Uranus, they're in an earth sign. So it's still going to be talking to your Capricorn house, right? Oh, I bet it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a ride for a lot of us, right? This Capricorn and Pluto and Capricorn was not an easy ride for the last 16 years for a lot of us. Just remember, you already know that you can do this, that you can create. Just remember your belief. Now it's time to understand what you believe, who you believe, why you want to believe, what you want to let go of, what you used to believe, okay? Denise says, I'm an Aqua Sun, 4 degrees. Cap ascending, 4, oh gosh, you're Cap ascending. I bet your whole identity changed. Structures really came down for you. Capricorn ascending, 14 degrees. Virgo moon. Wow, you had 2 Earth at 1 degree. 1 degree is a very powerful, just like 29 degrees, 1 degree is 2. Pluto has been a ride going over my cluster of planets in my first. Oh gosh, and you have planets that's also in your first? Oh goodness. It's now aiming for my sun and Mercury at 5 degrees. Yeah, but here's the thing, Denise. It may be aiming for your sun, but once you've had that, you just went through 16 years of Capricorn with planets in your first house. Your identity is very different than it used to be, and you've become empowered through Pluto. Yes, been wild, but I'm so thankful for the transformation that I have been through. That's exactly what I was just saying. So you're going to be like me. Every time you look at Pluto, you're like, I see you, I respect you, I understand what you're here for, but I'm not afraid, right? Yeah, I know. You poor thing. But you did it. You did it, Denise. Yes, it went over Uranus. Oh, gosh, you have Uranus, Saturn, and Venus? Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, it's so funny when I look at y'all's charts. Every chart that I look at, especially on here, when I look at it, publicly with everyone, I'm like, gosh, you guys, I thought my chart was hard. You guys have really, like, you guys are old souls, old souls. I bow to you, like, I respect you. I do. Denise, for me too. Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and North Node, Capricorn in third house. See, that's what I'm talking about. Wow. Dot. I know, I've seen yours, Dot. But I'm telling you, every time I look at y'all's publicly, I'm like, gosh, I don't feel like I'm alone anymore. I know. I know. It's funny because we all have that. I don't have Saturn. I have Uranus, Neptune, North Node. Oh, South Node, sorry. Uranus, Neptune, South Node. I can't remember what else I have in there. but we have stelliums. Mine is just in the seventh house. So, um, Dot's in the third house. So hers having to do with like her everyday life and her skills and your skills. Dot, I bet you're really, really, really smart. Haha, as you say, we can just laugh. I know. I laugh. Thank God I made myself I see I made myself a Saggy for a reason. Because what are you going to do? Laugh or cry? And I'm just like, I'd rather laugh about it. Just change the energy, transmute the energy, right? Thanks to you, none of us feel alone through all of this. Aw, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it. But you guys don't understand that I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like, yes. But remember, that's my 11th house Pluto, right? That's Pluto came in my 11th house, and I had to see. First, I had to get real with myself. Who am I? From everything I've experienced and understood, who am I? And then where's my group? Where are my people? Who am I gonna stick with? Who am I gonna believe in? Who am I gonna believe with? And who is gonna believe with me? Does that make sense? But we're not alone. And that's the Aquarius part. So right now he's gonna look at Capricorn, he's gonna go back into Capricorn, but he's gonna come back in Aquarius. Where we're like, we're not alone. We can do this together, right? Same. I feel so empowered in these types of forums and listening to the wisdom that you are holding, Cindi. Oh, thank you. Making sense of all the pain, turning into one superpower. I've said this for a while. You guys are very powerful old souls. And I know people don't see that because very old souls are kind of, they look meek. They look like, oh, that would, it reminds me of, special forces. I won't say names, but special forces. And, I've been around that. So it reminds me of people that have really been through some stuff. They're very like unassuming. And that's kind of what you guys probably are, just very unassuming. So thank you. I appreciate it. But you guys are very, very evolved. I know you probably don't look it, and people probably wouldn't think twice about it, but you are. I can see it. I can feel it. I can sense it in you guys. And then this is why I do astrology, because I can prove it in your chart, right? So it's not just me channeling and saying, I can actually prove it. I can, which is kind of my work, is I told you, I love science, but science is always behind. So it's nice when we can actually see it and I can prove it to you, right? Because as humans, we don't need it, but it's nice to have it, right? So I'm hoping that people are understanding. And I know that there are a lot of people, especially if you're resonating with this group. Sometimes we just like to stay quiet and listen in the background. Cindi, you are so right. Haha. Yeah, exactly. Um, but if you're in the background, just know that we can sense you and you can come forward whenever you're ready. It's not a big deal. But if there are any questions that need answering, if I can help in any way to help you understand what we're looking at here, right? So can you guys really see? I'm going to blow that up really big so you guys can see what I'm talking about because I forget that it's really small. Um, so Holly says, I keep thinking how crazy people must have felt in centuries past when they went through this stuff. YouTube creators such as yourself have kept me sane and helping to understand all of this. Oh, thanks, Holly. I appreciate it. And that reminds me of what I'd said before, like um talking about in the past how they must have felt. It was not easy for our, talking about Pluto, hold on a second. Talking about Pluto and the past generations and the traumas that we have. I mean, our grandfather, grandmother, great grandmother, great 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 grandmother, great 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 grandfather, all the lineage behind us, we have to remember it was not easy for them. It was not. Can you imagine? Like, it just was not easy for them. They couldn't just drive to Starbucks, or they couldn't just drive to go get food, or they couldn't. I mean, it was about survival for them. And they have been waiting. Like, they look from the other side and they're like, they're doing it. They're living in a time that it can be done. So it is so true. I've seen this before where it said, you are the person that your lineage has been waiting for. It's at this time that you wanted to be born because of these opportunities where it's not just survival. But guess what? If the systems, and I'm going to be talking in code here, but if the systems are trying to get us to be in just survival mode, hands down, we got that. Because we now know how to be in survival and in abundance. Does that make sense? Hi, Eagle. How are you? I'm so glad you're here. I know it's probably like, I don't know. What's your time over there, Eagle? So they're messing with the wrong people. That's all I have to say. We're not a group. And I'm not talking about just our group, I'm talking about humanity. Our lineage. It's 11 a.m. Well, good morning. Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, a lot of us may not know all of our lineage or what they went through, but they have you come from that line. So what if you were one that spoke out, you know, and to have people not believe you and think you're crazy and then institutionalize you or make you an outcast of some sort. It was not easy for them. But we're at a place now where we can do them proud. And it's not even about that because they're already proud. I'm just bringing this to your attention because sometimes we forget. Because it's so easy to talk about, oh, that's our lineage and that's what they believed. And oh my gosh, they get on my nerves because they're always so anxious or they're alcoholics or they're mental illness or they're whatever, right? But we need to really, and this is about Pluto looking into that, right? We need to really understand and understand that that was a reality for people who lived that were connected, that are connected to us before us, what they must have been through. And we don't need to harp on it or sit on it. Just know that they did the best that they could to get you to this point and honor that. And they're not even asking for honor. I'm just saying it'll help your soul, it'll help you understand better. So true. Gonna stop complaining about my everyday moans. You don't have to stop complaining about your everyday moans because that's part of your evolvement, Dot, right? So part of our evolvement is appreciating and honoring where we came from, but also not neglecting who we are and how we feel and honoring ourselves. Does that make sense? Like, there's a balance there. We can do it. I know we're not used to doing it, but we can do it. Myself included, you know? You're so funny. Uh, okay, so let me go over really quickly, and then I'll probably have to go in a little bit. So if Pluto is going to go back into thankful and blessed, says Holly, and Dot says yes, Cindy. Um, if Pluto's going to go back into Capricorn, So if Capricorn is in your first house, we already talked about that because who has the first house? Is it Holly or Denise? I think it was Denise, right? So we already talked about the first house. Yeah. Um, so over the next from May 2nd, and it's already started because you guys know energy doesn't stop and start. So for some of us, it's sooner than others. For others of us, they get to go later, but it doesn't mean you're better or worse, just it's your timing. So if it's going into your first house, there's something about your identity over these last 16 years that you are going to have to reevaluate, maybe readjust, right? It's not a big thing. The only reason this would be a big thing for a first house person when Pluto comes back here is because you've been ignoring something. But I think that you first house Capricorns, so Capricorn ascending, have learned not to ignore. I think that was part of your growth, right? So unless there's something, it's not something that you didn't see. That's the 12th house. This is something that you've seen, and maybe you thought you knew you were going to go that way, but maybe you just have to adjust a little bit. So this is about reevaluating. Remember, retrogrades are about reevaluating, reassessing, redoing, almost pivoting, right? So that would be the first house. I'm going to change this to the May 2nd so that we can talk about this where y'all can see it. Sorry about this, but these are all the retrogrades that are going to go on. And I'm going to talk about each one of them through the lives. So, and if you like this and like me coming on late, and it's okay, then I'd be happy to do that, when I can. So, here we go. So I just wanted to have this out. So this is May 2nd, right? This is when Pluto's going to go retrograde. It is in Aquarius right now. So what we've been learning through Aquarius since Pluto went into Aquarius, so think about the last 4 months, right? 3 months. 3 months, 4 months. Whatever, that's going to come up again, okay? So in your house of Aquarius, whatever we've been seeing, I'm looking on a global level, but if it's personal, wherever your Aquarius house is, whatever you've been kind of dealing with, you may have to reassess that. But the big events are going to happen when it goes into Capricorn, okay? Now, if you look, when it retrogrades here on the 2nd, it's still squaring that sun, okay? So the sun is our ego, the sun is our clarity, the sun is who we are, right? Or who we think we are. We really are ascendant, but this is into focus because we want to I have to explain this a different way some other time, but your ascendant is who you really are, but to get to who you really are consciously, you want to go through your sun. I don't know if that'll make any sense to people. It may confuse people. I'll try to do another video about it. But this is going to square this. So this is going to be like, okay, I thought I knew what this was, but I think I'm right. And Pluto's like, nope, you gotta look at it again. And you're like, but I've already looked at it a million times. And Pluto's like, we can do this 2 ways. Either you can see it or I can take it, right? So that could be happening. Pluto is also, look at this. Okay. It's going to be talking to the North Node. It's going to be talking to Mercury. It's a good talk. They're hearing each other. And it's about you moving through your destiny. Okay? That's going to be happening. And that's what you guys are going to be working on in the first part of when Pluto goes into retrograde. Okay? So, it's also trining here. Right? So it has to do with what you're doing out in the world as well. Okay? But again, remember we got this going on. So in the world, on a global level, in society, this is about whose ideas are we going to accept if we're willing to work with everyone. Okay? Because Saturn wants us to work, wants Pisces, and wherever Pisces is in your house, whatever house you have, what do you believe in? And the reason it's having Pisces question that is because he wants you to have some integrity and authenticity. Let me say this another way for those of you that have on the spectrum, autistic, high masking. Saturn is trying to get you to unmask. Who are you really? Does that make sense? You no longer need to mask. You need to be authentic, but who is that if you've always masked? Is that a better way of saying that where everybody understands? I this is Neptune. I believed I thought I was this because this is the way I always did it, because this is the way I learned, but I don't need to do that anymore. And that's what Daddy Saturn tried to teach you. Okay? Be authentic. But if you've never had the opportunity to really be authentic, and honestly, that's what the 2019, 2020, you know, what happened to all of us that caused us to stop and start to go within. He wants you to be your authentic self. That's all he's asking. He's asking you to be your authentic self. Because how many of you know Aquarians that don't like authenticity? We are all about authenticity, right? We're going into Aquarian energy. You have got to be authentic. There is no more of this, oh, I thought it was one way, this passive aggressive, this blah, blah, blah. No, we're not doing that. Aquarians do not like that. We will shut that down and walk away real quick. We don't like it. And we're not the only sign. Scorpio doesn't, Capricorn doesn't. Capricorn will deal with it. Sagittarius doesn't. At all. My moon. Nope. But it's no longer we can go between the lines. No, we're going at the line. Excited for the aqua energy. Yeah. Except for when you are an aqua. And then you're like, you guys remember what I used to say? Oh my God, I'm so sick of myself. Okay. Oh, I'm Sad Sun, an authentic, non-filtered exactly. That's Sag. I mean, there's like I said, there's other signs, but because it's aqua energy, we're not doing the in between. We will, but we're not going to do it. We don't like it. And so it's almost like Saturn is preparing us for that energy. Saturn is preparing us for how we're going to do things, right? It's not the only one, but it's like so close to Neptune. Why do you think Hollywood's having such a big, hard time? Because they are not authentic, right? Remember what I told you? I mean, that's another system. It's either going to come down or it's going to change one way or another, right? And it has already changed. We no longer want to see, it's not that we don't want to see, we no longer constantly go to watch a movie. We would rather watch real people, authenticity. We would rather watch people and how they're doing things and connecting. Aquarius energy. That makes sense? Okay, so y'all know I get distracted because I start channeling. Hold on. So we talked about the first house. If Pluto goes into your second house, there's something about your value or something about your resource, you being the resource, that is going to come back around for you in this retrograde from now, well, May 2nd till, well, I'll just say now because we know energy doesn't stop or start. So from now until October, there's something about second house Pluto. If Capricorn is your second house, then and Pluto goes back in there, there's something that you're going to have to reevaluate about how you see yourself being the resource, about how you make resources, or about how you see the value of you. Does that make sense? If it's in your third house, if Capricorn falls in your third house, we talked about that. That has to do with your skills. So you may get more, you may have to reevaluate. Maybe you're going to start something and then you'll decide not to, maybe because you're going to see it clearly. But whatever this is, it's the last part, okay? This also has to do with your neighbors, with the people around you, okay? This is third house, okay? That's going to have to be reevaluated. So something will come up from now until October. I know that's a long time period, but for most of y'all, you'll see it pretty quickly. It's the ones that are being stubborn, because Capricorn can be stubborn, really stubborn. So it's that 29 degrees that I'm kind of like, some people are going to be really upset. Okay, so Capricorn falls in your fourth house. We talked about that. That has to do with your DNA. That has to do with your lineage. That has to do with your parents, with your siblings, with, all of that. That will have to be reevaluated. That is you're going to have to pivot somehow. And again, if you've been doing it already, if you're aware, if you've been watching me, if you've seen the Pluto videos, if you, not just my Pluto videos, but if you've seen other Pluto videos, if you've kind of gotten it and working on it, then it's not going to, when you work with Pluto, it's not jarring. But for some people, especially at this 29 degrees, it's the things that they've been ignoring. Because this is not something you didn't see. This is something that you see. You're just ignoring it. Whether you ignore it because I don't have the time, I'm too tired, whatever excuse you're telling yourself, right? That's going to be jarring, okay? That's your fourth house. Fifth house, we talked about that too. That's your creativity. So that's going to have to pivot or reevaluate, or you thought you had it this way, but you see it all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I'm going to do it this way instead, right? Those of you that have been working on it, it's going to be a big thing where you're just like, oh, I see it. And then you kind of pivot, right? Sixth house. This sixth house, Pluto, y'all have dealt with a lot of health issues. So this is going to have to be reevaluated. This is going to have to be reassessed, okay? But this has to do with, like, am I taking care of myself? Am I balancing myself with others? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? What do I think of myself? Like, actually I've been wanting to work out. I've been wanting to eat better, but am I actually doing it? I've known this for a long time. That's the sixth house, okay? And then the seventh house has to do with if Capricorn falls in your seventh house, this has to do with relationships. And I've said this before. A lot of Capricorns are on the road for marriage again. So for those of you that are single, or those of you that have been divorced over the last 16 years, you're on the road. I feel it. I feel a lot of Capricorns getting married again. I'm not saying you're getting married this year. I'm saying you're on the road to it. Okay? So, seventh house. Shocking. It could be that you finally understand and know what type of partnership you want, and whether that partnership's in business or love. Whether you decide that you're going to make your mother or your sibling a partner in something. But that's going to be reevaluated, okay? Then your eighth house. The eighth house I like to think of. Seventh house is your marriage and your partnerships. And the eighth house is, okay, we're married or we're partners in business, and now we make contracts, right? So these are your contracts. This is going to have to be reevaluated. Pluto retrograded in your eighth house, you need to really pay attention to your contracts and what comes to you, okay? Because this is a reevaluation, so you're going to have to, like, really look over it, really decide, well, balanced in this, because the 8th house is a balance house, right? So am I giving too much? Am I giving away too much? Am I taking too much? Am I not giving enough? That has to be, and Pluto is there, so he's not going to play any games. He's going to show you real quick, okay? The 9th house. If Capricorn falls in your 9th house, this has to do with the bigger understanding of things outside of yourself. It also has to do with long distance travel, but all of that is going to have to be reevaluated. Maybe you thought you knew something. Maybe you started learning something, learning about the occult, learning about astrology, learning in college, taking another degree. You know, maybe you're doing another degree, and there's something that's going to have to be reevaluated there. Okay. When it falls into your 10th house, if Capricorn is in your 10th house, this is your work. This is your career. This is what you show people in the world. This is going to have to be reevaluated. Maybe you thought people saw you one way and you're realizing they see you another way, right? That's like the simplest form. We talked about the 11th house. There's something, that's me, right? You guys know I'm 11th house Capricorn. So 11th house is going to be reevaluated. Maybe I see that there was a bigger group that I thought there was. Maybe I see that it's a smaller group. Maybe I see that it's a more specialized group. Maybe I see that it's a different than I thought. Something is going to have to be reevaluated, right? And then in your 12th house. So your 12th house is really interesting for Capricorn. Like I said, you don't see it. This is your blind spot. So if you think of yourself as being in the first house, this is your blind spot. This is like behind your head. You can't see it. It's close to your head, but it's behind it. So you cannot see your 12th house, but you can feel it. This is what I've been understanding about working in the 12th house, because Capricorn is in my 12th house now. It's the way my chart is, but it's in my 12th house now, right? And so, and Aquarius is in my 12th house, right? So I'm understanding how to work in the 12th house, even though I don't see it. It's funny because Spirit was like, you don't have to see it. You can feel it. You have so many modalities that you can work with that 12th house, right? So I'm going to tell you guys that way. You guys have been, for the last, I don't know, some of you 10, some of you 16, some of you 20, some of you 8, have been working on these modalities, meditation, hypnosis, all kinds of stuff that you've learned. If your 12th house is activated with Capricorn and Pluto, feel it. Do your modalities, because that's how you're going to see it clearly, or feel it clearly, or know how to work with it. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, I almost feel like telling the 12th house people, like, do it like a Scorpio would. I don't know why I'm getting that sense, but like, do it like a Scorpio would. They sense it. They know it before it even comes, right? Okay. All right. So before I go, does anybody have any other questions? And then, and on the next one, I'm probably get, so the next few videos, what I'm going to be talking about is the retrogrades that are coming. Okay. We'll look at the chart at the time that I do the live. We'll kind of see what's going on. I'll answer some questions, and then we'll go into whatever's retrograding next. Because starting May 2nd, we have a planet going retrograde every month. And in July, we have 2 planets going retrograde. But from May 2nd until January, we have a planet going retrograde and in retrograde. Okay? So that means all these things we've learned, all these experiences we've had, all this understanding we're gaining, we're going to be reevaluating, rethinking it. And you don't think of it as a bad thing. It's like, okay, now that I know and have been working in this, Now I'm going to sort of ingest it into me and see how I want to work this out. That's all this is. That's why I tell you guys, the universe isn't working against you, it's working with you. So much so that it's having the planets retrograde so that you have time to digest all of this stuff. Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, if you guys could give me a thumbs up, a like, the hearts, any of that. Denise said, well, Dot said thank you. Denise said yes. And then Denise said, thank you, Cindi. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend. I am so happy I got to catch you live. Sending love all the way from Sweden. Thank you, Denise. Love you guys. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm sending really good energy. We'll all get through this. Remember, don't be afraid. Thank you so much, Cindi and everyone. Thank you, Dot, for coming. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for giving me thumbs up. Thanks for liking, subscribing. For those of you that see me later, I appreciate you too. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.